This man has gone through such a transformation physically, right? Like, one of my best friends from home, she actually DM'd me and was like, who is that? And I was like, that's Jeff Bezos. And she was like, what?
We can then make sure that we're as valuable in addition to your work. We can then make sure that we're as valuable to other people, that we're as valuable to you as well. Okay. Hello from New York. And for the first time ever, you're watching Fortune Daily. Welcome to the show. So we know that this won't be the first time you've heard many of these stories. Our goal is to give you Fortune's take on them and a new level of insight as to why they matter. This will be our approach to everything we cover. And we really want this show to be a dialogue with you, our audience. So please feel free to engage in the comments and send us messages on social media so that we know what you want us to cover. We can then make sure that we're being as valuable an addition to your lives and your careers as possible. Let's get into it. Day one. We're going to start with a really unusual move that tells you how nervous governments are getting about markets right now. Last week, the United States and Japan carried out a rare, coordinated intervention in currency markets to prop up the yen. It was the first joint yen operation in about 15 years. Tokyo and Washington together stepped in to buy yen after it slid to a 40-year low. Japan's finance minister said they did it to counter, quote, excessive volatility and disorderly movements. So this isn't just about Japan, because a yen that week put stress on Japanese banks, of course, but also on their huge holdings of US treasuries and on global bond markets. And sure, the US wants to support an important ally in Japan, but what it really wants is to prevent a currency crisis from turning into a debt crisis. Now, from currencies to a different type of risk, debt-fueled bets on AI. The New York Times Magazine just published a long piece asking whether Larry Ellison could become the face of the AI bubble, because at 81 years old, he's pivoting Oracle hard into AI infrastructure, and he's planning to invest up to $500 billion over 4 years in data centers built around partners like OpenAI. To do this, he's borrowed billions, stacking debt on top of an older tech business that isn't growing at the rate of some of the new giants. So what's the bigger takeaway here? Well, for the past 2 weeks, the headlines have focused on AI spending at companies like Alphabet, Tesla, Microsoft, and Nvidia, all of which are businesses with more diversified, more positive revenue streams. This situation with Oracle, however, is what it looks like when a legacy player goes all in on AI, using borrowed money in the process. If it works, Ellison could join the ranks of the new AI titans. If it doesn't, he might just end up as the poster child for what happens when the AI hype cycle ends. Watch this space. We certainly will be. And because we talk a lot about AI taking jobs, here's a story from Fortune's own Claire Zillman about a company that decided not to let that happen. So IKEA recently rolled out an AI chatbot called Billy, cute name, to handle thousands of customer service questions a day. Some context. A consulting survey earlier this year found that 40% of workers now fear AI will make their job obsolete. That figure is up from 28% just 2 years ago. IKEA's response was basically, we're not doing that. We're not going to let that happen to our people. So instead of laying off over 8,000 call center employees, the company spent 2 years retraining them to handle more complex problems and to work as design advisors. And so far, it's driving real revenue. This is a different kind of AI story because it's not about fewer humans. It's about humans being freed up to do more valuable work. And you can read the whole story on fortune.com. Coming up, we are joined by Fortune reporter Kristen Stoller, who wrote our cover story on Jeff Bezos as Amazon tops the Fortune 500 and the Fortune Global 500 for the first time ever. Speaking of Amazon, Barnes & Noble was once thought to be a casualty of the tech juggernaut's takeover of the book market. But as Fortune senior reporter Phil Wahba learned in our latest episode of Behind the Business, in 2026, Barnes & Noble is staging a comeback. How's it doing this? It's taking lessons from independent bookstores.
Many other independent bookstores have that cool factor. Does Barnes & Noble need to have some of that cool factor, or is it a different animal, different concept entirely?
Barnes & Noble can be extremely cool, but it's definitely a different sort of cool. And the challenge for us is how do we do it appropriately in each place in which we are? And that I think we're able to do increasingly well at the moment.
So, Phil, there's been quite a lot of doomsday-style hype recently about, quote, the end of reading. What did your reporting and your time with James Daunt teach you about that? Is it accurate?
It's not. Americans are still reading. There might be a smaller number of Americans reading, but those who read are buying more books. And it's not a boom market. You know, the American Publishers Association said that last year book sales rose 1.5%. So it's not a boom, but it's not dying. But certainly the more avid readers that Barnes & Noble caters to, they're buying more.
And what James Daunt is so good at is taking the independent bookstore model and applying it to mass chains like Barnes & Noble or Waterstones in my dear home country. What is the future of a successful retail bookstore going to look like?
Well, I think we see it with Barnes & Noble now. What he's done, he founded a chain of 10 stores called Daunt Books in London. And in fact, here in New York, you see a lot of people with the tote bags, Daunt Books. So that has really traveled well. And what he's trying to do is take the best aspects of independent bookstores and apply that at scale. So what that concretely means is letting your big box bookstore, neighborhood Barnes & Noble, function much more autonomously than they used to.
What else does it look like in Barnes & Noble right now?
So essentially, when you enter a Barnes & Noble store, you'll have tables where books are stacked by theme. The local employees are the ones who are deciding what that store, what that market wants to read. And so it used to be very much dictated by headquarters for Barnes & Noble, but there were also clear business reasons for doing that. And one of the first things Mr. Daunt did when he became CEO was get rid of some of the business model components that were leading to that. And
I have to ask you, what are you reading right now?
What I'm reading right now, coincidentally, is the exact same book as James Daunt is reading. It's a biography of Frederick Church, one of the Hudson River School painters. He was sort of the first American painter to really be taken seriously in Europe.
Phil, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the book.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Amazon has claimed the #1 spot on the Fortune Global 500, ending more than a decade of Walmart's dominance. Fortune editorial director Kristen Stoller takes us behind the scenes of her interview with Jeff Bezos, where he reflects on Amazon's reinvention and what comes next.
Kristen, thank you so much for coming in today to talk about your big cover story with Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
Now, Bezos is a man who is very ubiquitous in the business landscape, also just in the culture more broadly, but we rarely hear from him directly. So first of all, how on earth did you get Jeff on the phone?
That is a really good question, Ellie, because it is so hard to get Jeff to do anything. It's a funny story though, because, and you've kind of been with me on this journey, but 2 years ago, I did a profile on this company Corning, which makes the Gorilla Glass for your phone, the old Pyrex, and the CEO of Corning is on the board at Amazon, really good friends with Jeff. And when I asked him to, like, who can speak to your character? He was like, oh, you should call Jeff. And I was like, who? And he was like, oh, Jeff Bezos. And I was like, okay, sure, let's have Jeff give me a call. And we spoke 2 years ago. It went great. And then when the time came that I knew Amazon was going to be #1 on our not only Fortune 500, but our Global 500 list, the editors here said, Kristen, why not give it a try? See if he'll talk to you. So I shot my shot.
And he said yes.
And he said yes.
What was he like? Why do I have the feeling he's probably a very charming person? Am I correct?
He is. He was so charming. So to set the scene a little bit, I didn't know, there was some ambiguity of whether, I would go to meet him in person, if it would be on a Zoom. His schedule was very up in the air with the Blue Origin rocket launch. It ended up having to be a Zoom conversation. I think I had about 2 hours notice and
less, actually,
yeah,
I'm thinking. Because Kristen, for people who don't know, like we sit back to back in the office.
Yep.
And I remember there was a period of weeks where you were chained to your desk. Like, I don't think you were even going to the bathroom because you thought you might get the green light.
So anxious.
So I remember it was actually less, far less than 2 hours. I'm thinking like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I was racing around for a conference room. You were helping me, we were scrambling, and we get the call, we do the Zoom. It ends up being 36 minutes. He's Zooming from his original door desk, which is like when he created Amazon, they got these slabs and these 2x4s and made desks out of doors. And it's now in his study in DC. And he was really charming. He was excited. He was glad to be there. Definitely, very careful in his wording. He's very measured person, very thoughtful in how he speaks. He does repeat a lot of the same phrases that you've heard him say throughout the years, like customer obsession. He said that 10 times in our conversation. He's very on brand and on message. But honestly, it was lovely to talk with him. He was a delight.
And what does customer obsession mean in 2026? Because it's a great little turn of phrase.
Yeah.
But on a concrete level, what does that mean to him and how does that translate to how the company is run?
So how he sees it, and now he has the benefit of being a former CEO looking back, but he said building Amazon all these years, every other company was focused on the competitors, and we were not. We were only focused on the customers. And when you have that focus, when you're not even worried about what the competition is doing, that's why we're succeeding here. We're always thinking about what can we do better for the people buying our products.
Do you believe that Jeff Bezos never thinks about the competition?
It's hard to believe that, right? Like there has to be some feeling of like this is the first time that they've overtaken Walmart on our Global 500.
For sure, because he said he was thrilled to be at the top of the list.
Yes. So you've got to think he's been all these years thinking, when's our turn? When are we going to be number one, hopefully? But so I think there has to be a little bit of that.
There are two really striking images in the piece. So we have a picture of Bezos when he was starting Amazon in 95, 96. He's unrecognizable. He's this wiry computer guy. And then contrast that with the image that's on the cover, the image that's on the main spread. I mean, this is a man who is like pumped up on gym workouts and expensive living. He's got the tan of someone who spends 6 months of the year on a yacht. Yeah. He's chiseled.
Oh, yep.
Almost a completely different person aesthetically. Yeah. What do you make of that personal evolution that he's undertaken?
This man has gone through such a transformation physically, right? Like, and I posted to my story because I was hoping I'd get a bunch of traction. And one of my best friends from home, she actually DM'd me and was like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "That's Jeff Bezos." And she was like, "What? He looks so different. I would have never known."
Okay, so you mentioned the Blue Origin rocket launch that happened in May. That did not go well.
Yes.
It sort of imploded. And I wonder, Bezos is a man who is used to big success. Did you get any sense from speaking to him about how he approaches setbacks and failure?
Yes, and I actually found, he told me this fascinating story, which I think he's told once maybe before, but he is so willing to talk about failure. He was telling me about Amazon Prime and how that was could have been one of his biggest failures. And when he proposed it, he was like, okay, free 2-day shipping. Basically, how he described it to me is like, okay, it's like giving everyone an all-you-can-eat buffet, and the heavy eaters show up first. And so for a year, the economics of it were terrible. They were losing money because all these people were buying so much. And he was, giving away all this free shipping. But then, and everyone told him, like, Jeff, you need to stop. You need to end Prime. But then, over time, it proved to be this massive success, and it's a huge pillar of the company's business today. So he was like, he kind of told me, don't be afraid to fail. Best ideas come from failures. Just got to let it ride. Yeah.
Interesting lesson, Jeff. So Walmart has held the top spot in the Fortune 500 for 10 years now, which is no mean feat. What changed this year that bumped Amazon to the top spot?
I think the big thing that changed this year is really AI. Jeff told me chips and AI, they're really the next pillar for Amazon. Walmart is definitely leaning into that, but they haven't diversified their businesses as much as Amazon had. And I actually had one analyst, she kind of called me up and was like, who cares that Walmart beat Amazon or Amazon beat Walmart? That's totally irrelevant because It's no longer a retail game, it's now like an AI game, right? So they're playing in two different fields.
And what's your response to people who say, who cares? Why does it matter in 2026 who is top of the Fortune 500 list? Like, it doesn't affect my life.
Yes, I know, that's actually a really good point. The thing that I like about our list is that the Fortune 500, the Global 500, they're totally based on revenue. It's not like you and me sit here and debate like who should be number one this year. It's really numbers driven. So I think it's important, you know, that we as Americans are following this data, following the revenue, seeing which companies are succeeding, truly based on where we are putting our own dollars.
And Amazon is forging a lot of partnerships when it comes to AI. So it's got a partnership with Meta, it's got one with Anthropic. To what extent do you think these partnerships are going to dictate the size and scale of the company going forward?
I think they're certainly helpful, but I don't know if we could measure Amazon's success based on the partnerships alone, because there's so much that they're building on their own. And we could also look at their acquisitions. Like, for example, in the healthcare space, they recently acquired, One Medical.
Yep.
And there's a lot of different brands they're either partnering with or acquiring with, which is helpful. But it's really like they're doing a lot just on their own. They've got, the Amazon Studios, they've got Prime, they've got Marketplace, they've got AWS, now they have chips and AI. So yeah, I think the partnerships are helpful, but it's more holistic.
I mean, it does feel a bit like Amazon is taking over the world.
It does.
I mean, is that your sense? Where
is.
is Amazon not at this point?
Yeah, and my question to everyone was, does this scare you? Does it scare you that Amazon's taking over the world? Some people are like, no, I love it. Some people are like, ooh, we need to pump the brakes. This could be a monopoly.
And these people that you're talking to are kind of analysts, thinkers outside of Amazon, the company.
Absolutely. Yeah, I talked to analysts. I also talked to a bunch of nonprofit leaders too. And there's one who's been really vocal, who said, to save what we all love about Amazon, it needs to face competition, because they are, it's kind of like the AI slop mindset where if they have all these sponsorships and everyone is on AI and it's all looking the same, or on Amazon, it's all looking the same, how do we distinguish between products anymore? If the sponsor products win, we need it to face competition.
Some people that you spoke to in the piece, and it was really interesting, kind of criticized Bezos for stepping down as CEO in 2021. He's now chairman of the board.
Yep.
And they said that he took his foot off the pedal at the exact time that the AI boom was taking off.
Yep.
What's your response to that from having reported around this?
My thought is, I think that's an interesting critique, certainly. I don't know that it's entirely fair to Jeff, only because, yes, I think in terms of Amazon, right, Jeff did leave. He might have taken his foot off the gas there. However, he's now building his own AI company, Prometheus. So I think it's not like he took his foot off the gas with AI. He just wanted to do his own projects. He wanted to do Blue Origin, this new Prometheus, which is still a little secretive. But
so we don't know at the moment what Prometheus is doing that Amazon AI isn't.
That's correct. We know Prometheus is providing creators and engineers with the tools they need to bring their ideas to scale faster. Okay. But we don't know specifics yet. Yeah.
There was a level of really interesting introspection in your piece. And a former VP at Amazon says Bezos himself acknowledges that the company will at some point cease to exist.
Yeah.
Did you get that sense from him?
He never said those words to me. But I think he's very realistic, right? I mean, this is a company that's been around since the early 90s. And yes, they're innovating, but he's always like, no one can be around forever. But I also spoke with the CEO of Amazon, Andy Jassy, who I think is really doesn't have that same ethos and is more like, how are we going to bring about the next wave of innovation to stay strong, maybe forever?
Kristen, thank you. Please come back and talk to us next time that Jeff gives you a call. We're always here.
You're my first call, Ellie. You know that. And you may also help me find the conference room to book it. So thank you.
That's it for Fortune Daily, our first ever show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ellie Austin, and we'll see you next time.